Hello fellow beings, welcome to Tapasya Loading, a safe space to attempt honest, raw and authentic conversation in homage to the ancient act of stoking a sacred fire. This episode is brought to you by the Holistic Musician Academy, your home for 360-degree music mentorship, music, self-care and artist development.
So I didn't open Facebook.
Well,
yeah, it's really hit and miss for me on those. You got to be on it all the time, and I'm not going to dedicate my life into that.
I love that you say that. Unfortunately, for my niche, and especially since I work so location independently, even though Berlin's been very kind to me, by the time I moved there, I was already so location independent in the manner I would nurture audiences that I haven't managed to wean myself off this whole social media thing.
You don't have to.
I don't think you can or should.
Yeah, it's not about that. It's just.
I don't think you should.
Yeah, tell me more. Why is that?
You shouldn't wean yourself off of social media because in most cities, there are no music journalists left to write about your music in print. There are hardly any music journalists left who write about you even online. So there is a real vacuum in terms of how do you get news of your music out to your audience who does exist, who does want to listen to the music. And, posters don't work anymore. Postcards don't work. Reviews and whatever previews on print doesn't work. Even if there's something online, arts and culture is way at the bottom of your newsletter, or whichever newspaper you subscribe to. And so social media is one of the leading ways to let people know that you've got new music, you've got concerts. And as much as it's a double-edged sword, or it's a dichotomy, because on the one hand, you're trying to, and you don't want to be all about me, taking selfies everywhere and talking about what's happening in my life. I don't want to be that person, but the industry is such that it forces you to be that person, because if I post a video of just my cat, it's not going to get as many likes as if I post my face and tell you a little bit about my music or sing for you live a little bit. Yeah. So, it pushes definitely us and me into an uncomfortable zone, but right now that's what's needed.
Yeah, I totally hear you. I've been trying my best to reframe the whole equation with the lens that, hey, this gives me more control on my own messaging and the manner in which I want to connect to my audiences. But I will say I find myself a lot of times looking at my diary on my scheduler and thinking, wow, I just spent more time doing what is roughly referred to as PR than I just played my instrument today. And that's a very strange feeling for me to deal with from, the generation I grew up around, with the values I was brought up with, especially by my mentors. I find myself struggling with that.
Well, even before social media, you definitely had to be a good marketing person and a good business person.
Yeah.
If you're doing music independently, you needed those skills. They were just put to use in different ways. You maybe were on a phone, or in some other ways, but you were still doing it. It's just a whole lot different right now. I don't have
anything to say about it.
I do remember reading this interview once by Gary Burton. I know Rez is familiar with his work. Kiran, are you familiar with his work too? Vibraphone player, where he talks about how he knew, and I'm rephrasing here, please don't quote me on this, where he talks about how he knew Pat Metheny was gonna be big, because he would always nurture these relationships with important people, and he said this in the most positive way. And he'd take notes and note down addresses after every gig. And apparently, because Gary Burton, mentored Pat Metheny as well for a bit. I remember reading like a fleeting interview once where he talks about, that's when I knew that this guy was going to be a leader.
That hid that in his hair.
Yeah, the hair is definitely.
You've got big hair, then you're going to be big.
Like Metheny admitted that. He said, I look like a rock star a white dude with long hair playing jazz, and people, approached him that way. So that hit that. But I think it's his music that did it all.
Yeah, I would tend to agree
At least
with
most
you on
of
both
it.
counts.
Yeah, in his case, he's like a genre unto himself. So he's pretty genius type.
He is. I will admit I am a diehard fan. Did you listen to a lot of his music, the two of you? I'm guessing.
Up until I would say about 24, 25. And now I'm 89. So it's been a long time.
I'm 93, so I know what you're talking
you look
about.
better than me.
That'll be the three behind the nine.
Thing on top.
Dude, that's like the last bit of hair I have left, so I just kind of try and make sure everyone notices.
Well, you're definitely using it well.
Well, yeah. I think we might have talked about this on another time. It actually, it might have been an Instagram post or something. It actually has something to do with my yoga practices, horribly cheesy as it sounds, because they say if you tie your hair up on top, it apparently, channels the energy the right way. I don't know if this is true, but I'll tell you this. I had really long hair once, and then I was completely shaven bald once. And between the two, this seemed like the right compromise, because long hair was just too much work. Head shaven made me look weird, and also it's really cold in winter with a shaven head. So I thought, okay.
Why on earth?
I think when we spoke to you last, you had your head shaven because that's how I remember you.
Yeah,
and
that might be.
I don't think it looked weird. I think it looked absolutely wonderful.
Oh,
yeah.
You're very kind. Thank you. I appreciate
Good
that.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, this looks more like a Buddha.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Folks, I don't know if you know this, but the two of you, you're both what I refer to legacy guests on this podcast.
Oh.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That means when I started this podcast out, it just means you were one of the first guests on my podcast at the time. I didn't even know what I was doing.
Oh, no.
It was the pandemic. We were all under lockdown.
Yeah.
Rez, I think you were my second guest. And
possibly, yeah. And then you had Sheila Chandra, right?
Yeah, Sheila Chandra came on later on. That was much later, though. I think she might have been my sixth or seventh. That was like I really lucked out big time. It was the first interview, like vocal interview she'd done in years. And both of your interviews, they're two of the most listened to episodes. And secondly, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking a chance on me back in the day. Excuse me.
Well, thank you for making time for us.
No, it's my absolute pleasure and honor. I'm not just saying
your music
that.
as well. So
I need to hear more of your stuff. Actually,
man,
you can send me more anytime you want, so I can just click it instead of searching for it. I'm a little lazy that way,
I really appreciate that, man. That means the world to me.
If you say, Rez, this is something new. I want, I played on something of yours, right? Like a free improv.
Yeah, I actually wanted to, one of these days over the next few, definitely this year, I'm going to ask for your release permission because that turned out really well and everyone wants to release it. And by the way, sorry, Kiran, I don't know if you heard this track and I don't want to bore you with it, but this was actually...
You're not boring me.
Okay. I do tend to ramble a bit when I get to music. I just get a little overexcited and start getting a bit nerdy. But Rez played on this completely improvised piece and it turned out to some like interstellar stuff because all of these musicians, I was looking for a soloist and nobody took dibs at first. And then within 10 hours, everyone said, okay, I'll be the soloist. So within a week at first, there was no one soloing. And then, cause this was all remote, it was still under lockdown. I had 3 soloists at the same time. And it is not, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it is not funny the way they sound together. It's like they're in the same room listening to each other. There are moments where they're literally playing identical phrases. Some weird shit happened. Yeah,
now, was that timed, or I did another one of those years?
You were playing.
We all did it at the same time. That wasn't. Yeah,
there was no time. There was an electronic thing going on, which Dr. Das did from Asian Dub Foundation, but you were listening to each other to your none of the soloists were listening to each other, and so like there are 3 soloists playing at the same time. Nobody's in anyone's way. And they're literally, it's like they're speaking to each other, like some weird stuff went down there. And I
don't think I ever even heard it. So that's the link you can send me.
Yeah, that's definitely a link I'm going to send you.
Yeah, that's cool.
But to revert back to what I want to say, well, when this podcast started off, I was just, really lonely because there was, no one around. It was lockdown, as desolate as it gets. And you folks came on, and now I think I just released the 108th episode.
That's great. That's a lot of knowledge you have acquired.
I have. It's like getting, constant master classes from some of the best folks in the world, including you folks. That is a major privilege. I almost feel guilty sometimes, I will say, scamming people into coming on and sharing all their goodness and all their knowledge.
Yeah, guilt is overrated. Don't worry about it.
I love that you say that. I would totally
100%.
agree with you. I was listening through your latest releases, and I think I might have told you, your last album, Kiran, the one Rez produced, that's been on my playlist, like especially my airplane playlist for a while. I think I've heard the album at least 7 times now.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to talk about this a little because I feel like it might be a nice doorway into getting into the manner in which you kind of design your workflow. Start off with the first thing that strikes me about this is I'm not a very video visual kind of person. Usually, I've tended to think that it gets in the way of the music, but this is one of those rare occasions where the video is killing it. And I want to make sure that I don't give you the wrong impression. I'm not saying it compensates for the music in any way, but it's one of those very rare instances where it is such a 360-degree kind of work of art where the visuals and the music come together so well.
I have a number of videos for the album. So which particular video? Are you talking about the video for Tera Jag, which is shot in the desert?
Yes.
Mojave Desert?
Tera
Okay,
Jag.
yeah. Yeah.
Is that the one which won the award, or was the entire album which won the award?
So right now the album is still new enough that it's just being entered into the awards. And so it's been nominated so far for the Canadian Folk Music Awards.
Congratulations.
And we're waiting to hear about other awards.
How did he go about the conceptualization of it all? The manner in which it was shot? Was it just the director doing their thing, or did he have a say in it? Did he have a vision?
Yes, it was, something that I wanted to do. So Tera Jag, the song, is a lament and almost like a complaint to God or whoever is running the universe or whoever the responsible entity is. And it's a complaint that, you look at your world. Tera Jag literally means your world. So it's saying look at your world. It's such a friggin' mess. It's turning into a toilet. And how am I going to manage and work with both of these bipolar sides? Who am I going to convince? Who am I going to appease? Who am I going to listen to? How am I going to traverse this world? So it's about the political bipolarness in the world. And, when I go to India, just have just this tremendous argument. I can't talk about politics with my cousins in India because we just end up having a yelling match. And
intimately familiar.
And sometimes same here in America. And so I wanted to have that visually, to have that speak visually. I wanted either some sort of destruction or nothingness or wildness. So either I wanted to film it in a forest where there's just tons of growth and everything is just wild and there's just chaos, complete chaos. But it's hard to film in a forest. It's just, logistically super hard. And so then the other idea was this, I could film in a desert where there's just nothingness, because that's sometimes what I feel vacant in my heart, and just a desolateness that I feel when I'm talking to people about politics sometimes. So, the desert was easier to deal with. And then, the director who I worked with was my friend from 30 years ago, Erica Oliveira. And, not 30 years ago, for 30 years we've been friends. And, then, finding a cinematographer was a lot of work. Like I was just on the computer looking at videos of tons of cinematographers. Like, I would start in the morning and then 5 hours later he would be, what are you doing? And I'd say, I'm looking for a photographer. I told you, a cinematographer. And he said, but you were doing that in the morning. And I was like, I was still doing it. And then I found the wonderful Dale Sue, the Canadian, who had a really good working knowledge of the Mojave Desert, which is 3 hours from LAX, the airport.
Mm-hmm.
And loved his work, loved what he shot. And so that was the core team: director Eric Oliveira, Dale Sue, the cinematographer, and myself. And then from there, we built a bigger, larger team, all three of us bringing in people. And it was not without incident. There were lots of things that went wrong in the desert shoot.
May I ask what?
Well, one thing was that we had a drone, and the drone was shooting me from high up above, walking in this vast expanse of a desert, but it came down too close to me, and then it created a dust storm.
Oh.
And the team was 5 minutes away from me, watching me in a monitor, so they couldn't see. So the drone operator couldn't fly the drone or see because there was a dust storm. And the drone backed into me.
No way.
And the propellers broke, and I still have scars here and all at the back of my shoulders, scars for life.
That is intense.
But I'm not blind. And so I'd rather have the scars than be blind. I'm not dead.
Scary shit.
And then I just went
scary
down.
shit indeed.
Yeah, I was knocked down. I probably had a small concussion. And I just remember feeling like just very comfortable. I was just comfortable lying there in a $3,000 dress in the desert. I was just so comfortable. I didn't want to get up, And then I just opened my eyes and I saw the whole team running towards me. It took them about a minute to run towards me, and then I got up. And so that was one thing. The second thing was that the ending shot had to be on a big, humongous rock. Now, Dale Sue, the cinematographer, is also a rock climber. So the day before on the Scout, he gave me a quick lesson on how to climb this rock. And this was the thing that I was worried about in the morning. I was like, oh my God, at the end of the day, am I going to be able to climb that rock? Is this dress going to rip? How am I going to do this? In the end, I climbed up in my underwear, and then Dale brought the dress up, and I wore the dress on the top, and we got that ending shot on this big rock.
You should have gotten the shot of you climbing up on your underwear. That would have been...
Erica got that one.
You didn't include it in the video?
Well, the video seems to be doing pretty well anyways, I think. But hey.
It is a cool video, I gotta say.
Wow. Talk about sacrificing for one's art. Jesus, how did you not go more public with this story?
I did. I posted it on social media.
Yeah? I don't know. Okay.
Yep, it's all on my Instagram. It's probably on Facebook too, but it's definitely on Instagram.
Social media has algorithms, so, it wherever it wants you to go. But
yeah, hate those.
But the end result is not always,
Never is. Oh, mad respect to start off with. I'm really glad you're okay, and I'm also a little stunned at how chill you folks are about all of this. You could have gotten seriously hurt.
Yeah. The drone operator couldn't sleep for 3 days. He phoned me for 3 days. He said, I just get up at 4:00 and I walk around my house. He's no longer flying a drone. He just doesn't want to do that anymore.
Wow.
And it was a scare, definitely. And the director, Erica, didn't want to do the ending shot. We had one last shot to do on that rock, and she didn't want to do it. She said, can we just make sure you have all your limbs? But I just knew that, this is the only time we have, an entire team of 6 people are in the desert with you. If you don't get that shot, that's it. That's over.
Wow.
And I was fine. They just needed to wipe off all the blood, and put little bandages on me so you couldn't see the blood or anything, and clean the dress.
Rez, on a scale of 1 to 10, how panicky are you when stuff like this happens to your wife?
Not at all, because I didn't know until afterwards.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes
She
sense. Good
she
move.
came home fine. So
I didn't
it's a
even.
little rough. I mean, the imagination definitely takes it to another level.
I didn't
can
tell
imagine.
him even on the phone. I just waited until I got back home to New York City, and then I told him that this is what happened. And he was angry. I remember him being angry that it happened, but
What are you going to do?
yeah, you live and you learn.
It's another story on the checklist.
It was a drone
100%.
learning
Tell me
moment.
about it.
We needed to do things differently with the drone. Yeah.
Wow.
See, I did that kind of stuff when I was 13 and 14, but not.
You were
in
a
my
surfer,
50s.
weren't you?
Yeah, surfer and motocross and all that stuff. LA,
Motocross. Whoa.
Los Angeles stuff,
Okay.
California.
I didn't know about the motocross part.
Many times. We were just talking about it with my dad.
So
know.
you are familiar with the whole extreme sport thing.
Yeah, I never was the one guy to go that extreme, but I had friends that went crazy. And, but, because of the peer pressure, I went towards there, but I didn't, do the, 20-foot waves and all that stuff. I just, man, that always scared me when I was,
But you loved motocross.
yeah, motocross, but I didn't like race professionally. I had a couple friends that did that. I was like, that's just a little too hairy for me.
Show us your motocross injury.
Oh, well, okay. It was a 3rd-degree burn. I got that when I was 13.
Nice.
Yeah,
man.
that skin came off of my belly, skin graft from my belly,
So
and it never healed properly because we're brown. So
that helps.
I don't know what it is, a pigmentation or something happens to people with brown or darker skin.
I've heard, yeah.
So maybe I could have a lawsuit on my hands that I could have used, but
That is how you become one of the best guitar players in the world.
well, I mean, not by this. I could have done it without this.
Oh,
No,
Yeah.
but actually, it's true. Guitar and music took me away from all the, surfing.
I remember.
and
I remember
motocross.
you
Yeah,
telling me.
surfing came with sort of a party atmosphere, that kind of thing. So I bailed on all that when I was 16.
Where do you folks meet?
My folks?
No, you
No,
folks.
us
Where'd you meet?
Oh, I was just on the internet first.
Huh. Very progressive.
Oh yeah, she was looking for a guitar player, and I was looking for a girlfriend at the time.
Yeah. Figures.
So it made sense. I was like, okay, yeah.
Love it.
I was reading a review of an album,
Uh-huh.
Sonny Jane's album that Rez was on. And in it, I like the things that he said in the interview.
What do you say?
And so he said that his father sang ghazal.
Ah,
So I thought, okay, here's a jazz guitarist that knows what Indian music is, or Pakistani music, South Asian music is. And so then I got a hold of Sonny Jane, who I didn't know, but I got a hold of him, emailed the magazine, got a hold of Sonny Jane's email, got a hold of emailed Sonny Jane, asked for his email, then emailed him. And, said, here's a bit of my music and I'm looking for a guitarist. And, would you like to be on my music? And he emailed back and he said, well, actually, I'm doing a project and I'm looking for a South Asian vocalist, AKA girlfriend. No, vocalist.
Well, I was always looking
Nice.
for a girlfriend at that point. So
nice.
what do you got? What guy is it, or a boyfriend? Doesn't matter. But
And so, and then we spoke. And then right away there were sparks on the phone call.
Wow.
And then like a month later, I had a concert in New York City. Then he came and we met, and the whole, the band, and we were all together. And that night after my concert in New York City, when we were meeting for the first time, we had a lovely dinner. We went out for drinks. And then he was leaving and my band was walking ahead of me and he was getting into a cab and I was just looking behind me while he's getting into a cab. And the cab driver could see me. And so the cab driver, he's getting in and the cab driver's looking behind, seeing Rez get into the car, but he can also see me. And the cab driver said to Rez, "Oh, she doesn't want you to leave."
Nice.
but in a big Russian accent. She
Of
doesn't
course.
want you to leave. Something like that. I was like, huh?
Of course. New York.
First time a cab driver ever said anything like that to me. So it was kind of strange. I took that as a hint.
Nice.
I should have tipped them more, but Karma.
You should have, man. You should have. Well, if he ever listens to this,
Yeah, right.
good job.
Can you imagine?
Good job.
Hey, I had that guy in my car 22 years ago.
You know, that's not even that improbable. I can very well imagine him picking up a magazine and like seeing you folks like, hey, hang on, I know these folks. I remember. It's such a New York story.
Well, yeah, he has a good photographic memory, yeah. But
So what happened then? When was the first time you, how did the long-term working and romantic relationship start happening?
well, it just, I guess it evolved like most relationships happen, but with music at the center.
Yours doesn't seem like most relationships, though. I got to say, I'm not say that in the best sense.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, I'm saying this with all, with the utmost respect to everyone out there struggling with relationships. But I don't think I know another couple who of course, this is a personal opinion, who I hold in such high regard as individual artists, who managed to keep a partnership like yours going, both musical and in real life. And I could shoot like straight for the "what's your secret" question, but I don't want to go there yet.
You sound like a good interviewer.
What I said
do, right? And sometimes I'm surprised myself, but I try hard not to be that, because I have vested interest, because I've dated musicians and it's been a catastrophe. To a point where I'm like, I don't think I ever want to date a musician again. So
Yeah.
I'm genuinely curious here.
It made it easy. No, I'm just joking.
I can't imagine it is. Relationships are never easy, but in this case, it's like a whole additional layer involved.
If we're both in the same music, like if we're both jazz musicians, I don't know, maybe it wouldn't have worked out. Yeah, because the music would have just pulled on all ends, but we teach each other things about our music, and it comes to a good conversation. Comes out well for both of us. It's not like we're repeating. Oh, this scale works over this, and like a jazz sort of. It's we feed off of each other, and that's not to say that a lot of tension hasn't come from there also. It has. Can't hide that under the rug, There's a lot of tension when we work together, but hopefully it just comes out in the music and you guys don't know about it. It just sounds,
Or even if you do, it's life.
Yeah.
I would say the first 3 years of our making music together were the toughest, because even though we speak the same language, English, our musical languages are different.
Yeah, no.
And so while you're creating, there's already this energy of just something is just on the cusp and you're not able to grasp it. So you've already got this energy inside you, both of you separately. And then just a simple little thing of, I'm talking about this Thai or the chorus. And he said, well, what's the chorus? Like in my music, because he doesn't speak Urdu or Punjabi or Hindi, what's the chorus? Like simple little things like that. Or he'd say the B section or the bridge. And I'd be like, what's the bridge? And, what's the B section? Simple little things like that of not speaking the same language would escalate and end up in arguments and slammed doors.
Yeah.
And
when you put the ego on top of all that, then it becomes rough.
Yeah.
And then after that,
100%.
then we just realized these are just such silly questions. Also we got married late in life, right? We were in our old,
36
late,
or something.
yeah.
37.
So that's, it's not 20s. So we got married later in life. We'd already had experiences, and, we knew that this was we wanted it to work. That was, it was a priority for us. We wanted this to work.
I have a free gift for you, my friend. No strings attached, legit free gift. What if you could have your entire career as an independent musician presented to you on one page? All of the aspects you needed to be aware of, starting from creativity to collaboration, stuff most musicians are a little less privy to, like PR, other aspects of music business, down to self-care, and a very lucid display of how all of these elements are interlinked. What if you could have one page which gave you an overview on all of that, I can give you that page. And it's up for a completely free download. Please go check the episode notes. You'll find a link there. One page, an entire overview of an independent musician's career. And in case you're wondering why I'm doing this, I want to build an ecosystem of holistic, happy musicians and artists who are building their careers in a fulfilling manner on their own terms. So if this is something that resonates with you, go download the Artist Roadmap.
The relationship started off with a musical partnership, as in I was looking for a guitarist and, whatever, vocalist. And so it started off that way, but eventually the relationship is what's important and the music is just a byproduct. If we stop doing the music today, it's just not going to matter. But the relationship became the priority, and then the music is just cherry on the top now.
Yeah, it's so easy to misinterpret. But if you'd said that to me 10 years back, I'd be like, get out of here. I wouldn't say that, but that's probably what I think. It's interesting. The only working band I've finally, eventually, after all these years, I signed my first contract at 17. So I started really early as a quote unquote professional musician. The only band I've really managed to keep together that's been long-term is one where it is about the music, but it's not only about the music. We really love each other at the end of the day, and I get it now, and I get how I fucked up so many working relationships with so much more potential in the past, where I was like, no, the music comes first, and, perfectionism and that kind of stuff. That makes a lot of sense. It's inspiring, to be honest.
The other thing is that we have to be really honest about the music, which means sometimes hearing things that you don't want to hear. But if you want to grow, then you have to hear it. So, I will do something and Rez will be like, oh, that doesn't sound like anything to me. And it's like, I've just worked on it for a whole month and you're saying that. And then instead of getting offended, okay, well, why not?
Like the kind of thing I would say.
And,
everybody's got opinions.
What is it missing? And then
no one's completely right.
And then, sometimes we work on a song, like right now there's a song that I wanted to have in Comfort Food, the last album. We did 3 different arrangements for it. And, every time I hear it, there's one part of you that wants it to be done already and wants to go into the studio and record it. But there's a harder side of you, and that's harder to listen to, but you have to, which is saying, do you honestly like it? Do you honestly love it? And if you don't love it, then it's just not ready. You have to figure out what it needs and look elsewhere until it's going to be ready for you to love and go in there and record. So that part is really hard to spend so much time on a music, 3 different arrangements, and then to say, no, that's really difficult, but you have to do it if it's. And then when you love something, it's just right there in front of you. You just love it. You can't wait to practice it and play it, and it's there. Yeah,
we've had some good successes. At the same time, there's a pile of music that doesn't make it. So that's the thing. It's sort of and then you put in a lot of time into that. It's a little sad,
Yeah, that's the behind the scenes you never get to see on social media. The amount of work you throw away for every song. There's at least 7, 8, 10 that didn't make it to the cut.
Yeah, they don't see the process of and touring too. They don't see the process of that. It just looks great on paper.
It does.
But you know how grueling.
Oh my God, yeah.
No, I don't know if I would call it throwaway. I call it time spent, and then it's all the process, right? That's the process.
Yes,
the learning process.
I agree. Still hurts though.
Yeah, it's
for sure.
Yeah. Still,
it's like literally throwing babies away. Here's a kid I gave birth to, but you're not good enough.
Well, maybe not babies, but apple pies or something like that. That's the better.
Yeah. Okay, fair play. Yeah, I'll go with fair play. That's a kinder analogy. Yeah, I agree. I gotta say that, musical differences are one thing, but you do sound like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you do sound like you folks met at a time where you did come with very equal levels of life experience, though, which is like the bigger music. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, different life experience, but we're the same age, so but we had very, very different life experiences. But we were on the earth for the same amount.
Some similar.
Time.
Yeah, I mean, we both moved out of our. I was born in Pakistan. She was born in India. We both moved when we were 4.
Yeah,
That's pretty interesting.
It is.
So she went to New Zealand and then Canada, and I went to Kentucky and then Los Angeles.
Yes, that makes
4
sense.
years old. So that's an interesting thing.
I was 9, but yeah.
Oh,
I remember talking to Kiran about this too when we were doing our one-on-one. I remember talking to you about how hyphenated mindsets really are kind of a little different, and it takes a certain degree of first person experience to really get it. I'm not ruling out the levels of empathy others can show to, even if they're not particularly hyphenated in their cultural identities. But I will say that it does make it a struggle to connect beyond a certain point on certain themes with people who, this sounds horrible when I say it because it sounds like I'm discriminating. I'm not, but I just know that there are certain experiences you cannot understand at a cerebral level only. You have to have gone through it yourself to really understand where you're coming from. That sounds like a very strong feature to have in common.
Yeah. I mean, to understand the cultural hyphenation, yes, they're definitely like, if someone else is culturally hyphenated, then they will understand the experience better. But if someone just identifies with one culture, it's possible that they can understand you in different ways, different aspects of you. Because we're not all just about our hyphenated culture. We might feel other kinds of pain or love that a person will, another person can understand that part of you more. So, we connect with all sorts of people in different ways, but that's definitely one way that we connected with each other.
Do you remember the first rehearsals, how you overcame your different approaches to music?
Well, the first rehearsals, I basically emulated her previous records because I was kind of substituting or replacing the guitar player, who's great also. I mean, really, he's got a certain touch that I became privy to, and I really enjoyed trying to sort of readjust my own style to fit in her music. So, that happened. And then really the first rehearsals of us actually composing together or arranging together, that was a different level. It was a level up in a way, because now it's starting from scratch. And I think there were goods and not so many goods. I don't want to say bads, but there were goods and bads. I'll say it.
No, I know what you mean.
Challenges.
Challenges about that, in terms of, but the one thing that really was great was that because of raga music that she was, she grew up doing, those, if you break them down to scales, because of us Westerners, we see things as scales. They're seeing as ragas. There's some really unique note choices in those.
Indeed. And
so that really opens the door for a harmonic approach. So I would play a very cool jazz chord, let's say, call it jazz or 20th century classical, whatever you want to call it. But even if it's like a Bartok chord or whatever, something really interesting that I thought would be really, okay, she's going to laugh at this and she would like it.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
That's when I thought, oh boy, this is a little closer than I expected. And that's where you get the magic from. Some traditions don't really, work that well as sort of a hybrid music. But that's the thing I love about the Indian classical tradition, which these ragas come from, is that there's so many interesting choices there that you can work with, that a hybrid kind of chord like with a major and minor third or something like that. I guess that'd be
100%.
sharp 9 chord, but like a major 7 and minor 7. Let's say that, which is we don't really have a chord like that in the West. Major 7 and minor 7. That's like a kind of a crunch. And like a chord like that, which I always like to experiment with, that sometimes works because the raga sort of that she's singing in allows for that.
Yeah, I remember running into George Garzone once at a workshop I did with him where he said, "Hey, I play major 7s on dominant 7s and you're gonna fucking like it." And I was like, I remember thinking like, wow, so there are people in the jazz world who do that kind of stuff. And random tangent here, but
no, totally.
I have noticed how unassumingly broad-minded a lot of musicians from completely different backgrounds who you wouldn't think would vibe with complex harmonic structures, which is probably how we would phrase it, are so much more broad-minded than a lot of folks you would have thought would be more open to it.
Yeah.
Another thing I have noticed, I think, at an emotional level, South Asian traditional music and jazz, or like more rootsy forms of jazz, blues, have a lot more in common than gets credit for. In jazz we say he's or she, they've got the blues, and it's like a thing. You need to get it. They either have the blues or they don't. There is a similar concept in Indian or South Asian music too. I think it's called dard, which is literally translated to pain, but doesn't really signify pain literally. In Bengali, which is like my ancestral language, we call it dorod. I don't know if you know this, but I did study Indian classical vocals for a while as a kid. I was the worst student, but I did train for a while. And I remember my teacher said, "Oh, dorod, you had the dorod, which is you got the pain." It was kind of similar to like, "Oh, you got the blues." I was a horrible student, but he did acknowledge that. So I feel like at an emotional level, there is more in common than often gets credit for. Would you tend to agree, or is this something you've noticed?
Yeah, for sure. There is a Western sort of definition of the blues, which comes from America, slaves and from Africa and all that history. So that's for sure. But the feeling is definitely universal. They're two kind of separate things when people talk, about it, because I play with, Min Xiao Fen, who's a Chinese, they call it's a pipa, but it's a lute. We have a project we're playing to a 1932 silent film. So we've done that a lot as a duo. And I mean, I hear the blues constantly out of her instruments, evoke that, from her. And then of course, when I listen to Indian music, the same thing. So and African music, obviously, and every world music has sort of a folky, bluesy aspect of it. Most world music, if you call it world music, but music around the world. And so my definition of the blues is a little different than a sort of a form, which is more of how sometimes jazz people
that's the
define
definition I was getting at, though, like the emotional aspect of it more than the.
Yeah. It's a human thing. It's not any country owns it or anything like that.
I would tend to agree. What would Kiran say about this?
I mean, there's dard in almost all kinds of music, I would say, right?
Right.
So like as Rez said, the word blues defines a genre that has come out of slavery. And the word dard or dord in Bengali is an emotion. South Asian traditional music has been born out of different circumstances. And, why are there so many love songs in the world in any language or any genre? Because love hurts from time to time. And so it's easy to write about. That's compelling to write about. And you write about it because that's the release of your pain. So that I would agree with Rez that you get it in any kind of music that you listen to.
That's very reassuring to hear. Listening to your album, it is very, the stuff you refer to about how kind of these apparently very different worlds come together. How do you actually go about the process of arranging the music? Because it doesn't sound like it, but it's pretty complex stuff going on. And I love how accessible you make it. But it's like really like the melodies you're singing, some of the melodies in there, and the way you harmonize them, but also get the band to chill in with all of it. You know, there's so many of these quote unquote, I hope my audiences get to see all the hand gestures later on. There's so many of these quote unquote crossover or fusion kind of, not jazz fusion, but like world fusion kind of things, which clearly are, you know, are kind of talking past each other. But did you take these quote unquote unconventional nuances into consideration in a very deliberate way while you were arranging it, or do you folks just go with the flow? And
yeah, both actually. The deliberate, yeah, for sure. There's no reason to make music for me that's not creative, you know what I mean? And because no one's making money off of this, really. So, like, why are you putting music out there that's just going to be the same old, you know? I mean, that's not to put down that, because that's, you know, there's the utilitarian reasons for that music as well. But for me, I always approach everything as, you know, what's the possibility I have here, you know, and let's really take advantage of that, you know. And when she comes up with a great melody, I don't want to let that down, you know.
That's
I don't want to let
way
it
to
down
say
with some, you know, first batch chords, which just tend to work. I want, you know, I get those, then I put those aside, then I level up and audition sort of new ideas. Taking a phrase from Kenny Warner, which I know you know.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
And so I sort of audition these other ideas, and when I get something that just has that little pinch of magic, then I've got it.
I gotta say
it could
that
be the first time I play it too. You never know if it's the first time. Oh, wow, that's perfect. Which has definitely happened as well. It didn't need to go down that path of auditioning. It just sounded magical right there. So it depends on that. And sometimes I'll change the bar structure to like 9 bars or 7 bars.
Oh,
because her stuff sometimes ends exactly at 8 or 7 or 9. I sometimes want an extra bar there to go into the next section. So we'll have to work that. You know, there are all these little things that happen in the music, and hopefully they come out, you know, flowing and smooth instead of like rigid.
I want to pay you a compliment at this point. I know I've paid you quite a few in the past. All of them were sincere, by the way. With specific regard to the stuff you do on Kiran's music, I love your lack of snobbery. Because, you know, you don't go, I'm sophisticated, I'm just going to play my jazz comp. Sometimes you're just really strumming the guitar, and it's so ballsy and so real and so raw, but still in context, doing complete justice to the harmonies, and gets this rootsy Far Side kind of a vibe as well, which does justice to Kiran's musical roots.
My guiding request to him is that don't touch my brain, touch my heart.
Ah, I love that.
So I'm not looking for, you know, complicated stuff, or I'm just looking for stuff that touches me.
No pressure.
Yeah, it makes my heart melt. Well, he does it all the time.
Yeah, well, the thing
he can do both, but sometimes he goes for the brainy stuff. And I have to say,
okay, what happens when you do the brainy stuff? What happens then?
That's true. Sometimes like I said, I want to keep pushing. So
sometimes in the past, I gave in. There was this one song that I really loved that he just insisted should not be in a simple 3/6 pattern.
Or 4/4.
No, that was 3/6, I think. He said it should be a 9.
6/8, you mean?
8, okay. He said it should be a 9.
These are the Western.
And 9 made it very complicated. So
I love.
And he's like, "Oh, come on, push yourself. You want to, like, break your boundaries, like, like stretch a little bit." And he convinced me that, okay, fine, we'll do the song in 9. I switched around the melody a little bit, made it work in 9, and, went and we recorded it the band, but like there was so much thinking involved in singing the song in 9, because we haven't done 9 enough in our lives. We've been doing 4/4 and whatever you said 6/8 since we were 4 or 5 years old. It's in us now, but 9 isn't in us, or at least not in me in the same way. Maybe it's in him. And so I kind of regretted that decision, because when I sing on stage, I don't want to think. I want to be aware that I'm in pitch, that I'm listening to everybody. I want to have awareness, but I want to feel more and, not think that much.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, he does that, but it's a learning process. And so now sometimes when he's got a beautiful chord and it's going to sound amazing, but it just clashes with what are my notes, a teeny weeny note. He'll say, well, can you change that note? And I'll take it into consideration and I'll go away with it and I'll sing it with the note that he suggests. And then I'll think about it with his note, with my note, and just really think about do I like it? Do I love it? Is it easy to do?
Does it make sense musically?
Does it make sense? Like, how much am I liking it? And now I just have to like it enough, like love it and like it enough to accept his more creative difficulties.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, there's limitations on the guitar, right? There's limitations on every instrument. So the guitar, if I come up with a chord that has open strings and that chord can't be played anywhere else, either I bail on that really cool chord that I think works really well within the harmonic structure, or she changes her melody by a half step or whatever. A tough one. And I think that's the best way to work, because if she just comes in with the melody completed and I'm just harmonizing, well, everybody does that, right? That's not a big deal. But if we're really grappling with the harmony as much as the melody and then as much as the rhythm, then you're taking these 3 really big components of music and giving them all the same, clout, sort of giving them all the same weight. And that's kind of coming from Ornette Coleman's principle. See, this is where jazz, can come in sort of under the ground. It doesn't have to be so jazzy, but I take the concept of harmolodics, which Ornette Coleman, and she knows nothing about that, which is fine, but that's in my subconscious, right? So I'm like, okay, I want to give weight to everything, texture too, and whatever, orchestration that is.
I love how you point to your heart when you say subconscious. That's interesting. It's Freudian.
Did I do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's where the subconscious is. I don't know. Because the conscious is full of it right up here.
Well, not to go off on a tangent, but they have discovered, like at a biological level, they've discovered, I think they call them the neuropeptide or something, like they've discovered something similar to neurons in the heart. So, wow, that's cool. So science does recognize the concept of, I think they call it heart coherence now. So it's not just all cerebral. Yeah, the heart does have a brain.
Scientists are catching up to the yogis, but they'll 100%. Never catch them.
Or musicians.
What do they call it?
Heart coherence, I think.
Heart coherence.
Yeah. If you want, I can look it up later on. There are quite a few people doing some like legit research on this. On the cusp of science and mysticism.
Yeah, they always talk about go back to the heart, not the brain.
Yeah.
So it's in the heart. The spiritual heart is not here. It's in the middle.
Yeah, I would tend to agree.
It's not the heart. The heart. Yeah. Which is kind of strange to me, but
100%. But even like at a biological level, they're coming up with newer discoveries. But I gotta say, this is so interesting for me, because not to make this about me, but I started off with rock music, went into my college phase where I was this jazz nerd, didn't even touch a electric keyboard for 3 years, toured with a hard bop band for a year, and I thought, this is it. I'm the jazz nerd, and I'm the jazz snob. And then somewhere along the line, I realized, shit, I'm never gonna, for one, I don't have a voice as a jazz pianist, which I feel is gonna serve my musical purpose. At an earlier time, I might have said something like I wasn't good enough, but I realized now it really didn't have much to do with that. It was more about, it really wasn't who I am. It was someone else's definition I was trying to fulfill. I'm not even sure where that happened. And turns out I'm a singer-songwriter at heart. And that pushed me into a situation where I was like, when I had to rediscover my voice as a singer and a songwriter, I had to really swallow my ego as a pianist. Because I noticed, wow, like my piano brain simply does not work to serve a song the way I would have thought it does. Because the minute I open my mouth and sing, everything changes. The minute a voice, like a human voice, enters the room,
that's interesting.
Everything changes, So much changes.
No, that's interesting. Just to piggyback off that, I know what you mean, but that also opens this door of my history, which I was telling her that growing up, listening to rock and pop and all that, I never listened to the vocals.
Okay, interesting.
And I don't know any of the words to songs. Like, these guys are always singing the songs. I'm just like, I don't, it's probably memory too, but I mean, I know like maybe the chorus words or something, beat it, whatever. But I'm never listening to the words. I don't know what the songs are about ever. In fact, I don't know what any of her songs are about.
That surprises me. I would not have thought that.
He's been told.
I've been told several times, but when I write my arrangement, this is the mystery of it all, I swear. When I write
when you write
arrangement, I don't know what her lyrics are talking about.
I'm going to piggyback off your piggyback now.
Yeah.
And get really nerdy now. I'm sorry, Kiran, bear with me for a second. So this might sound pompous, but my master's thesis, like my final master's thesis, was on songwriting and the subconscious mind. And the whole line behind it was me working on a bunch of songs I'd written when I was 15. When I read back the lyrics now, it makes no sense. Like, you think, why the F is a 15-year-old singing about these things? Turns out I was writing about my parents' marriage falling apart.
Oh, yeah, wow.
So,
I
think the subconscious mind picks up way more than we realize. So I would argue you are picking up way more, maybe not the words literally, but your brain definitely picks up on the emotion in ways and emotes it in your own way. Maybe you're not a wordy kind of a guy, but I have a hard time believing that you don't feel the lyrics when I hear you play. Maybe I'm biased. I don't know.
No, absolutely. There's a good and not so good about that. The not so good is like, when I hear Stevie Wonder song or something, the lyrics, I always forget what he's talking about or any of these pop songs. I have no idea what they're talking about. I can't remember a damn word because I'm always focused on the emotion of the instruments and the emotion of the melody too. Yeah. But there's no words that I'm thinking about. It's the melody. I love the melody and the harmonic nature of the tune and the backbeat. So with my music, it's great that I grew up that way because I think my music is mostly instrumental. Everything has to shine instrumentally to really make it emotionally, impactful. And if it doesn't, for example, you hear a lot of pop tunes these days that are getting, well known or whatever. And the music is not so good at all, but it's the lyrics that are really good. Actually, some of them are pretty good.
Yeah.
Some of them.
Yeah.
Like some of the rap and stuff. It's like, oh, okay, I can hang with that, some very,
Kiran doesn't look very convinced.
Yeah, but so if they didn't have those really heavy words, then it's sort of like, well, so my energy comes from the emotion within the music itself.
Yeah.
And then the lyrics can help, cherry on top of the ice, icing. But when I mean lyrics, I just mean words. I'm not talking about melody. Melody is very incredibly important.
Yeah.
But the actual words,
No, I totally get what you're referring to. But Kiran, have you ever felt this Darth Rez refers to? Did you ever feel like he wasn't listening to the lyrics closely enough? Or is that a crap question?
No,
to
I know he's not listening to the lyrics because he doesn't understand the words. And he doesn't have a good memory for stories like that. Like, even if I tell him what the song is about, he'll just forget about it in the next sitting.
Because I'm not that interested. That's
when we perform the song, like, for 3 tours straight, and I'm telling the audience, cute little stories about the lyrics and songs, then from listening to that, he'll know. Finally, he'll know what the song is about. But when I first present him a song, until we've performed it a million times, he doesn't know. And it doesn't matter because he nails it every time. Like, it really doesn't matter that he doesn't understand the lyrics. Somehow when we sit together, you know, he's watching me, right? How I'm singing the song. There's a tempo. There's the type of melody that it is. It's the emotional content of the song is being communicated somehow. And there are not just Rez, but a large portion of our audience, my audience, doesn't understand my lyrics either. We perform to a lot of people who don't understand Urdu, Hindi, Punjabi, but they are connecting with the emotion in the song. If it's a fast rhythmic song, they're tapping their toes or moving their tushy. If it's a melancholy song, they are finding release for their own sadness in that melancholy.
Oh, I'd relate.
So beyond the words, the emotion is there, and he definitely, like, always just nails it. It's, you know, I almost think that maybe it's a good thing because the words aren't distracting him in any way. And I love what he comes up with. So I wouldn't change anything, you know, I don't want any butterfly effect here. So I wouldn't change anything there.
Yeah. And I know if I come up with the wrong thing, she'll tell me anyway. Yeah. So it's like a free, you know, blank canvas, and I can just do whatever I want from what she's, you know, conveying to me. And it's just a matter of like, oh, no, that doesn't work. Oh, okay, cool. But I tried it, you know. So I'd rather be completely open and then close up than be closed and then try and push myself open.
If it doesn't work, it's not working for other musical reasons. It's not working because the emotion isn't matching. That's never the reason why it's not working.
Yeah.
Which is kind of uncanny. I mean, it's weird.
It's working for other reasons. I just had a different vision for the song and just some other different reason that it's not working.
Yeah, I can really relate to that.
Song.
I was just telling Rez before you came on about how I'm really digging into Japanese music at the moment. I don't understand a word of Japanese, but you just made me realize that, wow, like I'm totally in love with Japanese indie music at the moment. And you just made me realize, wow, I feel legit connection to the kind of stuff coming out of there. I have no idea what the words mean. I never even stopped to think about it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think twice jumping into sitting with these folks.
I mean, I listen to a lot of Malian music, a lot of Tuareg music from Mali, and a lot of different Malian music. And my first entry into the music is just the emotion that it's carrying. And then later on, I'll pick up the liner notes and I'll read what it's about, and I'll fall all over in love with the song again. But I already loved it for the emotional content, the rhythm, everything else that it's bringing to me.
So
yeah,
inspiring.
I mean, it's an interesting thing because there's an argument about jazz standards, about knowing the lyrics. That's a huge, that's a big, argument. And I always point to Keith Jarrett and Bill Evans, because Keith says, oh, yeah, you got to know the lyrics. He's my favorite musician, right? You got to know the lyrics. I mean, Bill Evans said he doesn't know the lyrics and he doesn't care about the lyrics. And he's one of my favorite musicians, but Keith is, it's kind of scary on a scary level to me. And the way he does his stuff. But I agree with Bill Evans on that. Side.
Yeah, I'm more of a Bill Evans guy myself, actually. Not to.
Well, no, I'm not talking about musically.
No.
Just in terms of the lyrics, because those tunes were written in the 40s and 50s, a time where I can't really relate to, and most of the lyrics are about walking in the rain, or love this, love that. It's not the way I feel when I play those tunes all the time at a bar or something. If I'm playing Stella by Starlight, I don't want to think about the movie. I don't want to think about Stella by Starlight. There's got to be something in the music that's transcending all those.
That's the one. Transcend.
Things. Yeah, transcending those kind of ideas about the contextual ideas. That's the reason why I'm playing the music right now, because I love Stella by Starlight, the tune. Not because I love this and that and the other. I got to put it into my context. And if it doesn't work, then I shouldn't be playing it. well, that's my own head. I mean, so anyway, so that's a good way to cap that conversation.
Transcend is the one, man.
About lyrics.
That's the one which cuts it. That kind of explains it all.
100%. The music has to transcend everything, category, everything.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of music that does that.
That's one belief I'm definitely taking to my grave. Gratitude from the bottom of my heart for listening to the very end. Please consider taking a minute to subscribe to our show so you know when the next episode is out. This is a labor of love, one I hope snowballs into one that's sustainable in its attempt to support independent thought and authentic relating. While having you as a regular member of our audience is what makes that a realistic prospect. Much love and talk soon. Just another voice that is